Now on Capitol Hill this morning, lawmakers are one step closer to approving a ban on TikTok on all government devices after the Senate passed a bill yesterday. This comes as more and more lawmakers raise concerns over the national security implications from the Chinese-owned app. NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa joins us now on that and more happening on the Hill today. Ali, good to have you with us. So this bill passed in the Senate actually by unanimous consent. I mean, that's not something you see a lot these days. And we should note this is a separate bill than the one that Senator Marco Rubio introduced that would ban TikTok outright in the U.S. But what do you think this all says about how serious the concerns that lawmakers hold with TikTok are?
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. Well, we know that U.S. service members in the military are already banned from having TikTok on their government-issued devices. But this bill went one step further, calling for the banning of TikTok on all devices issued by the federal government. As you mentioned, it passed last night unanimously by a roll call vote. That means that all 100 senators didn't object to the passage of this bill. This wasn't all too surprising because this actually happened back in 2020, but the House didn't take this bill up back in 2020 after it passed in the Senate. So it's unclear where this is going to go now. As you mentioned, it's important to know that this is different from that bipartisan bill that Senator Marco Rubio introduced on Tuesday that calls for the banning of TikTok and its parent company, ByteDance, from operating altogether in the United States because of those security concerns that the Chinese government is using U.S. user data for espionage purposes. This is something that has gained steam over the last few weeks and months, where Republicans and Democrats have both voiced their concerns over these security concerns and really the impact it could have on U.S. intelligence. So it's still unclear where these two bills are going to go now, but it is noteworthy that both of them did have bipartisan support, Savannah.
Yeah, absolutely. We know it's something that you'll keep an eye on for us. I also want to ask you about another topic here, the negotiations to fund the government, avoid a shutdown. The House passed this stopgap funding bill yesterday to try to do that. Walk us through how long this funds the government for and the status of the longer-term spending bill.
So remember, as of now, government funding runs out tomorrow at midnight. So lawmakers have been hard at work trying to hammer away the framework of this deal to be able to avoid a government shutdown. The House, as you mentioned, reached this deal on a stopgap measure that would fund the government only until next Friday, the 23rd, giving them a little bit more time to give these lead negotiators time to work out the details of this long-term omnibus spending bill. This now goes to the Senate before President Biden could sign this into law. The Senate could technically vote on this as early as today, because we heard them say on Tuesday, these lead negotiators, that had reached a deal on a framework for that long-term spending bill. They're keeping the details of that deal very close to the vest, but we do know that that top line number that they mentioned is somewhere around $1.7 trillion as of right now.
Ali, also, before I let you go, we're expecting the House to vote on the Puerto Rico Status Act today. Tell us about this. I mean, does this mean that Puerto Rico could become our 51st state if this measure passes the House today?
Yeah, so this measure would consider whether Puerto Rico should become an independent state, should remain a U.S. territory, or should have sort of a special status as its own government that still has associations with the United States. It's important to note that this has been taken up before. This has been taken up roughly half a dozen times since the 60s, but this has gained more steam, and there have been more calls to be able to do this in the last few years because of all the struggles that Puerto Ricans have faced over the last few years, especially in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria. There's been rising poverty levels, government corruption, a failing power grid. So there's been more calls to be able to do this. But the gut check here is that even if this does pass the House, where it goes next is going to be tricky, because we have that 50-50 evenly divided Senate before a new Congress is sworn in on January 3rd. And it's unclear whether lawmakers are going to add this to their long to-do list that they have to get done in this lame duck session. If they aren't able to get this on their to-do list, this would all have to start over in a Republican-controlled House come January 3rd, Savannah.
All right. Ali Rafa covering it all for us this morning. Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.